Chuck Norris, and I would like to say hello to all my friends in Israel. I watched Prime Minister Netanyahu's speech before Congress and saw a man who loves his country with all his heart and soul. I also saw a strong leader, which is absolutely crucial for the safety of the Israeli people. It's so important to keep a leader who has the courage and vision to stand up against the evil forces that are threatening not only Israel, but the United States.
Well, the results are in, and good old Bibi Netanyahu took the cake. Yes, in an incredibly close race, Netanyahu's party came out on top. So what did it for Bibi? Was it his refusal to cuddle Iran? His refusal to cuddle Palestine? Damn, I bet Hamas, Hezbollah, Iranian mullahs, and the White House, too, are probably pretty bummed right about now, but oh well. Returning to On Point, I welcome international relations expert Philippe Assouline. Thank you, Philippe, for being with me. Always a pleasure to have you.
Hi, Tomi. It's always nice to be with you.
Philippe, are you happy with the outcome of the elections?
You're asking me. My personal opinion is I would have preferred a government more to the center, probably more focused on domestic issues and able to improve the relationship with the U.S. But I understand why the Israeli public voted the way it did.
First of all, for those of us that aren't very familiar with Israeli politics, when we talk about the left and the right, a lot of us in the United States think about our left and our right, which is Democrats and Republicans. How is it different in Israel, to give people a little bit of background on how the party system works there?
Good question. So there's a multi-party system, first of all. So it's not divided down the middle. And the right and left is mostly understood in foreign policy terms. Even though at this point it's mostly a rhetorical exercise, the right is the one that is more nationalistic and less willing, at least in rhetoric, to take big risks for peace. And the left is the side that is more willing, perhaps, to engage diplomatically with the Arab world. That's how it's understood. In practice, it's not always like that.
So in this case, the right, I'm assuming, was what came out on top. Netanyahu is to the right. So what does that mean? He vowed no Palestinian state if elected. So is he going to hold true to that? He usually does. Are we going to see any more peace process, peace negotiations in relation to Palestine, to Hamas in the near future? So the right that won, Netanyahu got 23 to 24% of the vote, okay? But that happened to be the plurality of the vote, so he gets to form a coalition. He's going to drag his feet on the Palestinian issue, but as in the past, I suspect he's going to have to answer to American pressure. He's actually been the prime minister who's given the most land according to peace accords. And there was a document revealed recently about what he was willing to do in 2013 to get peace going with under John Kerry and with the Palestinians. His argument against the Palestinian state recently has a valid basis. The Israelis are very scared of terrorism. It's a very real concern. They remember their children or their children's friend getting blown up in schools and in the streets. But to say it in a speech right before the elections was a bit damaging. In practice, I don't expect him to change his policy. I expect him to keep foot dragging and talking to both sides. And I think part of the problem, which we've addressed on this program very many times, is that it's not an unwillingness to work with the Palestinians. It's that they don't have somebody coming to the table being realistic. They don't have someone to work with. The cooperation isn't there. So he's put in a difficult position, as I think we can all see, and I think that most of us here in America are sympathetic to. We're seeing what Palestine is demanding and their outrageous rhetoric that they're putting forth, and it's hard for Netanyahu to be put in that position. But one of the main things that's been pushing this election, and we saw it in his speech to Congress too, is Iran and the threat of a nuclear Iran. So do you think that's what did it for him, his hardline position on that and on the nuclear negotiations? Actually, no. Surprisingly, I think the Israeli public was focused very much on domestic issues, the cost of living, things that Americans can identify with, bread and butter issues. On the other hand, he won because in the days leading up to the election, there was really a stiff and hard race with the left. And he scared the right-wing electorate, and he ended up siphoning 5 seats worth of votes from another right-wing party, not from the center. So I don't think Iran did it. Iran is definitely prominent in every Israeli's mind, but they kind of feel powerless right now. And instead of dealing with the terror, they kind of put it aside and try to deal with the hardships of everyday life. Which is very interesting because here in the United States, our media doesn't, well, I mean, it's obvious. We don't cover the domestic issues in Israel. But when we're talking, any of the mainstream networks talking about this election, all they're talking about is this speech to Congress and his nationalist rhetoric, which he did do. But you're saying in Israel, the people are more focused on the middle class, just like we here in the United States are. I'm so glad that you bring that up. So do you think that he's going to be able to secure a better future for the middle class in Israel?
Sadly, there's not much to suggest he will. The prices have become unlivable. The cost of living has become unlivable under his rule. He's been prime minister for 6 years now, and he's largely ignored this issue. He's almost entirely focused on foreign policy issues. But the message was clear, and all of his competitors ran on a platform of making hardworking families able to afford a home. That's the level it's at. Israelis are very hardworking people, and they just want a fair reward for that hard work, to be able to buy a home for their families. And he's going to have to address it now, even though he hasn't in the past. And it all depends on which coalition he builds now.
And Philippe, I wish we had more time. We're going to bring you back on because I'm very interested in this. Hey, the rest of the mainstream media isn't talking about it at all, and it just shows how close Israel and the United States are, because we care about national security, but at the end of the day, we care about the economy. It's the economy, stupid, and that might be a really good indicator of how our 2016 general election is going to go. So I'm going to invite you back on very soon, because I think it might be a great indicator for us right here in the good old United States. As always, Philippe, thank you.